Welcome to the Filmological Society, brought to you by Redacted Media and 6.5 Media. In today's episode, we count down the 100 greatest comedies according to the BBC. And now, here are your hosts, Kris Schulz and Chad Halverson.
Welcome to another podisode of the Filmological Society. It is the countdown show. We are counting down the top 100 comedies of all time according to the BBC, the foremost knowledge people for comedies. With me, I'm your host, Kris Schulz. You're the host. With me, as always, is Chad Halverson. Hello, Chad. How are you?
Good, Kris. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And we have a very special guest. If you've listened to our legacy episodes, you've heard her. She is one of the co-hosts of You Haven't Seen What? Which we have to do soon. It is Julia Smith. Julia, thank you for joining. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you guys so much for having me. I've come out of the deep end of the pool for the spring, and I'm now whole again.
Oh, I am so glad to hear that.
The antidepressants are working really well.
Yay!
Oh.
Every morning I take them and I go, now I take my happy pills, doo-da, doo-da. Now I'm not going to kill anyone, oh, doo-da. Something like that. It changes
Right,
every
of course,
day,
of course. I hope your husband's out of the house when you start singing, but...
I'm going to totally start singing that when I take my antidepressants now.
Well, speaking of antidepressants, today's movie is number 34 on the list from 1995. So, Julia, you were probably a sophomore in college. I was a senior in high school. Chad, you were in first grade?
Fifth grade.
Oh my God.
1995's Clueless, directed by Amy Heckerling, who's also known for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which came out in the early 80s, I think. So she has quite a career of directing comedies of high schoolers.
She also wrote Look Who's Talking.
I know.
Which I found surprising. Random, I know.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd say it.
So, Julia, we'll start with you. So, first one I know the answer to already, but you've seen this movie before.
Yes, I'd seen this movie before, but it had been a really long time since I saw it. And so I was really excited when you guys asked me to do the show. And I watched it on Sunday. Yes, that was yesterday. And then I watched it again today. And I just forgot how this is a really funny movie. And it's a really good movie. And I'd forgotten it. I think I see Legally Blonde more that kind of comes up, right? And then I'm like, this is so much. And I love Legally Blonde, by the way. This is I feel so much better than Legally Blonde. But I know we're not comparing and contrasting. But like, I think too, it captures so well 1995. And then there's so many movie stars, like young people who are now became super famous. And I totally forgot Donald Faison was in the movie from
Scrubs.
Scrubs.
I too.
Just as one example of like famous people.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it, and just seeing a lot. Like, I remember like Wallace Shawn being in it. I did remember Turk, Donald Faison's character being in it. But there's a lot of people, even just like small part characters.
Breckenmeyer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, who are like, oh my gosh, that's so and so. That's this person. That's this person. So yeah, it was fun seeing that again. What about you, Chad?
Yeah, I saw this when I was younger, probably in college again. My wife wanted to watch this with me, so we both snuggled up. I kind of zoned out a few times because I was super tired, but I've seen it enough, and I remember when we were gonna do this, the first thing I thought of was Donald Faison is in this movie. And it was before he was in another teen movie, I think in '98. I'm trying to think of the name of that one. No. It was he was a drummer in it. And he wanted to wear a cowboy hat, and it was a whole joke. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I was excited to see him again. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. there were some instances where I was like, oh yeah, this was made in the 90s, where some jokes had the R word in them.
Yes.
And it was like, yep, that's right. And it's, both Kate and I acknowledged it. We're like, ooh, that's rough. Well, the movie's still good on its own merits and other things. And it's just one of those time capsule things that we have to deal with as a society in the future, and being tolerant and, at least acknowledging it. But all that being said, it's still a really good movie, really tight and quick, especially for a movie in 1995.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this, but Donald Faison was one of the cast that carried on to the TV show. There was a Clueless TV show.
A TV show.
Oh
There's
my
a
God.
Clueless TV show where they, basically it was mostly everybody that was from the movie, except for the main person.
All the expensive people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. This was definitely an enjoyable movie. And you, by the way, you were thinking of Can't Hardly Wait.
You jerk. Yes. Can't Hardly Wait. I mean, the 90s was kind of the I don't know, maybe I'm being this way only because I grew up during this time, but it really seemed like a lot of the coming of age movies during the 90s were pretty on point. This one,
it was very much
included.
like you. This was Kenosha High School.
Oh no, absolutely not. But as far as like quality movies go, and that type, because I never liked any of frickin' Pretty in Pink and all those John Hughes movies. Like I never just got. I mean, I like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and that's about it. But I don't know. I respond more to Can't Hardly Wait or Clueless, those types of movies, and maybe just because it's the product of my generation.
Well, I think that is something that happened in the 90s is that studios started to greenlight more movies like this because they were successful. They were drawing in teenagers, they were drawing in older people, and it was good money. But then also writing wise, like it was adapting a lot of the stories. This was adapted from Emma.
Yeah.
So going back to Jane Austen and retelling some of her stories and some other stories, and remaking that, I think it was a very successful way to go. I think how many times has Hamlet been redone? That probably better as The Lion King. So, because you were like 5 when this came out, Chad. So
I was in 5th grade. I wasn't 5. It's completely different.
That's the other 5.
I was born in
5th and 5 are
84.
super close together. Yeah.
God.
All right, so this movie, just to give a brief synopsis of the plot, it follows Cher, who she's a high school. She's 15 in this film because she hasn't gotten her driver's license yet. She's in high school and she's just finding her way. She's the daughter of a lawyer, of a litigator, so she knows how to debate. She knows how to argue. She knows how to prove her point, even when it may not be the best point to make. And it just follows her as she figures out that she loves her stepbrother, who is 18 or 19.
Like that was the one thing. I was just doing the math here on the actors, but like if she was 15 and then even if Josh was 18 or 19, I mean, going back to the R word, I also wonder about the, like, just where we've come, how appropriate a college student would not have even gotten involved with a 15-year-old, or if they did, then that would have been really weird.
Yeah. I mean, that and, this step sibling.
I thought of it more as like the Royals, and like, they're rich.
They do what they want.
They can do what they want.
Yep.
So,
And it was so interesting, 2 different times in the film, and they made such a specific reference to how they were not related, right? Like 2 different times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, alluding to just because you marry their mother doesn't mean they stop, you get a divorce to mean they're children, and even though we're not related. So they really teed that up twice to let the audience
making
know.
Sure everyone understands.
Right. Yes.
So
that it's okay.
It's okay.
So Alicia Silverstone was 18 when this was done. Brittany Murphy was 17. Stacey Dash was 29. Paul
I knew she was older, but I didn't know she was that much older.
Paul Rudd was 45.
Yeah.
Forever 45.
Forever 45.
Paul Rudd.
He just no, he was in his 20s. This was the first feature film that came out with him, although it wasn't his first feature film. There was a horror movie that he was in. So this is the really the movie that Paul Rudd made his mark on Hollywood. Like just started, because now he's a fairly successful actor. I don't know.
Now he's doing bit
all
parts
right.
in Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Yeah. Well, that's just fun.
As Aunt Man.
That's just fun. He does what he wants.
I still think that the sidetracked here, the best Paul Rudd character is his character on Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's just this aloof. He always plays aloof well, but very aloof in this one. But I liked him in. He's so damn charming in anything that he does, and I don't know. He always gives a good performance too, and a lot of people think of him as just a comedic actor, but I don't know. He can get serious. So
yeah, he was the second oldest actor at 26. Like of the kids, obviously.
He's so mature.
Wallace Shawn and all those. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
God, Stacey Dash was 29.
She was like 29 for this. Yeah, she was the oldest.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, she doesn't look 29 in this, but
no.
I appreciate the fact that they don't look like they're like 40-year-olds playing 18-year-olds.
Yes.
Like, and again, I mean, a lot of the actors in here are, they're 17, 18. They're, a little bit older than the 15, 16 that they're supposed to be playing. Donald Faison was 21. So, I mean, he's not much older in this. But he was showing some aging because the whole shaving the head scene, it wasn't originally in the script, but there were some scenes of him without his hat coming up. And at 21, he was already showing some...
His hairline
was rising. So they did the hair shaving scene so that he could not have to wear a hat the entire film. So, and that became like a trademark of his now, right? The very clean, like that's Turk. That's everything.
Dr. Turkleton. Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Turkleton.
I love, there's all these, did you guys ever watch Robot Chicken?
Yes.
Yeah, Donald Faison, Breckenmeyer are both frequent guest voice actors on that show. I think
Brecken is one of the creators of that. I thought him and the redhead guy.
He's not
Seth
a creator,
Green?
but he's definitely
Seth Green.
Yeah, Seth Green.
It's Seth Green and his writing partner. But anyways, a lot of people. Freddie Prinze Jr., Alicia Silverstone. There's a lot of people, and it makes sense because Seth Green was in a lot of teen coming of age movies as well. But he gets all these people together to just do some weird stuff for Robot Chicken. I always appreciated that about him and all these actors and actresses.
All right, so let me ask you, Julia, what moment or what part of this film brings you back to 1995 the most?
Oh my gosh!
What brings you back to the 90s? Like what of this film?
probably the soundtrack, and then the scene with where she talks about the boys' fashion and how bad they dress.
That's
And
what I
I'm
was going to
like,
say.
Oh, it's so true. And then I think too the way they edited the film and they layered over the music, and it seemed like they were very good about what songs to play with it. It was just, that was really well done. But when they do that little montage, and what song was it? I think it was a Beatles song. I don't know, but the baggy
Oh,
pants,
that's a
when the
David
boys are walking
Bowie.
down. Or David Bowie.
Yeah, that's a David Bowie song.
So funny.
Yeah, the soundtrack it's an amazing soundtrack. Like, and I love the fact that it goes anytime Josh is in it, Paul Rudd's character, it's
Yes.
Radiohead. Which is
Is it Radiohead? What did she call it? What kind of music did she call it at the end? Like apology music. It was something like that. It was very funny.
But I mean, you had all the big 90s stars, right? You had No Doubt. You had Salt and Pepper. You had Radiohead. Coolio.
Yes.
Cracker. Yeah, just like everyone. And then, of course, Billie Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Mighty Boss Tones. I love him. The Cranberries. Like, oh my God. Counting Crows.
Yes.
Like everything. Jewel. Beastie Boys. Yeah, it was. It's. Just hearing that, it's like, oh, this is a good time. Iggy Pop, who is not really from the era, but Chad, what about you? What brought you back into the 90s?
Not to steal Julia, her idea, but yeah, like how I used to dress during that time, just to fit in. Like I wasn't even like a stoner skater at the time, but super baggy jeans, Jankos.
Yes.
Wallet chains.
Yes.
Button down shirts but open with like a white t-shirt underneath. Yeah, big band stuff all over my arms. Like that brings me back.
Well, I would like to call out, I may not have been cool at the time, but I never wore Janko jeans. I never had a wallet chain. I never even rolled my pants.
Man, you haven't lived until you wore a pair of Jankos and then immediately step on it and ruin them.
And trip and fall over.
Trip and fall.
Yep.
Yeah, I just, now we're in the skinny jean era still. So, like the exact opposite.
It's awful. Yeah.
We can't find.
Is it scary to see? I don't know, not scary, but like, not that we're old, but we're getting older, and like watching that, and that was what it used to be. I don't know. I guess it's a broad question of how does it feel to be so far away from the 90s now, where that was the thing, and I tried so hard being that, you know?
Right. It's interesting because it's, what do they say? Like I'll say, 10 years ago was the 90s, but it was actually 30 years ago. Yeah. It's like the new thing. And you're like, oh my God. And to know like 20-year-olds were born in 2000. Anyway, and we can stop talking about, but I think what was interesting too is I was talking to my girlfriends. I had coffee with a couple of my girlfriends, and their daughters are, like middle school. And so I was telling them that we were watching Clueless and I was podcasting. I was talking to their moms, and I'm like, when would you show the girls this? However, there is a little bit of a feminist bend when she's talking about high school boys are like you have to like manage them like animals. And then the guy like jumps on her and she shoves them and she's like, as if, and I'm like, there's some female empowerment in all of this, right? Like Cher wants to be treated with respect. She thinks boys are stupid. In some ways that's appropriate when they're 15. And there's just aspects of that too but there's like one of the things that I wrote down as we dive into like the writing is just, there's an entire language. And I think that's what makes the movie so clever.
We're going to get to that.
Good. Okay. So I'll leave that because I wrote a whole bunch of them down, but that was the other thing that I really enjoyed. And the performances, I mean, Alicia Silverstone made it look so easy, and I doubt it was actually as easy as she made it look.
What I really like, I mean, I know she did a couple other films around this. I mean, she did Batman and Robin. She had Blast from the Past. But then she's been working, but she's never really reached the heights that Clueless gave her.
Right.
And it's yeah.
She was recently, she had a cameo in the new Rebel Wilson movie, the cheerleader. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Basically, she's a cheerleader at 17. She gets in a coma and wakes up 30 years later, so that she still wants to finish her high school career out.
Okay.
And it's actually a pretty decent movie. I thought it was pretty funny. And during the low point of the second act going into the third, the main character's down on herself, and Alicia Silverstone picks her up as an Uber. And it's like this cool, like 90s teen idol with Rebel Wilson trying to be a teen idol from, it was super cool. So I definitely recommend watching that movie as well.
So before we get into a little quiz that I put together,
oh God,
why don't we take a break for our sponsors?
I'm gonna go study real quick for your quiz.
Okay, so we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is TC,
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast,
where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio
which could be you.
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
Or the demands
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay. So head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
Jake, have you ever been looking for a definitive Nintendo ranking and can't seem to find it because it's just everybody's own opinion?
Honestly, all the time, Sam.
Well, I'm looking for someone to give us the answers.
Wait, you mean like a podcast made by two young, handsome men where they create a definitive top 5 list of all things Nintendo?
Should we just do it ourselves?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Let's give it a shot. I'm Sam,
And I'm Jake.
and at Top 5 Nintendo, I'm going to give you my top 5 list,
And I'm gonna give you my top 5 list.
and then we're going to duke it out and see what the real top 5 is.
Okay, and we're back. I love those sponsors. They are the best.
I
the
liked when that
best.
one sponsor told me to buy that thing, and then I did.
And are you happy now?
I'm happy with my purchase that I was told to
Yeah.
buy.
Great.
You can tell it's changed your life, Chad.
So different, as you can see.
Okay. So now I have a little quiz for you two. I'm
A.
going to see
The answer is A.
how well you two know the slang from the mid 90s.
Okay.
I have notes. Okay.
All right.
From this movie specifically, or just
From
broad
this movie
90s?
specifically.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Are we buzzing in? Are we taking turns?
we
Like, what are the
doing?
rules?
I'll start with Julia for the first one. I'll start with Julia. If she gets it wrong, then Chad have a chance, and then we'll flip flop.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I have no idea.
Family Feud rules. I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
All right. Ready, Julia?
I'm ready.
Jeepin'.
I'm going to use it in a sentence. You've been jeeping behind my back, right? So that is, he asked Dion, I think, if she's been like spending time with other people behind his back.
Yeah, like cheating.
Like
Yeah.
cheating, like maybe getting a little something,
Yeah.
something. He's projecting because then she whips out the braid and accuses him of cheating with Shawana,
I wouldn't wear this cheap weave.
right? I don't wear polyester.
That's it.
All right, very good. Jeepin', we got that. Okay, you ready, Chad?
Jeeping.
I guess.
Cake boy.
Cake boy. Oh man, can you use it in a sentence?
Cher realized that Christian was a cake boy.
What's a cake boy?
Oh, he's homosexual. He's
Yes.
gay.
He's gay. He's a friend of Dorothy. He's a Sally.
I totally forgot that was his arc too. Like, I love how
Yes.
that's just like slid in there, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, now we're friends now.
I mean,
Yes.
one thing I found for this movie is just watching it and seeing some of those like little things put into place. Like Eldon clearly has a crush on Cher from the very beginning of the film. Like, it's not something that he's just, you know, like when I saw it the first time, I didn't pick up on that. And so I thought, oh my gosh, he's trying, you know, like Eldon is a piece of trash.
Right.
But he's clearly showing signs of affection, and she's really not pushing away from him. But anyway. Okay, you ready, Julia?
I'm ready.
Lodies.
Lodies?
Lodies.
Lodies?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Can I have it in a sentence?
Well, giving Ty a tour of high school, Cher pointed out the Lodies on campus.
Oh, the Lodies. So that was one of the, on campus, that was one of the groups of kids that she probably was telling Ty not to hang out with, were the Lodies, Breckin Meyer's group.
Yes.
Okay.
They like to
So the
partake
stoners.
They like to partake.
in certain substances and like to
That's
kick
right.
hacky sacks around.
That's right.
And who does it, right?
All right.
It is one thing for sparking up a blunt at a party, but another to be
All the time.
all the time.
Okay.
So much wisdom
I
by these young women.
are you ready, Chad?
Yep, I'm ready.
Barney.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Oh, let's see. He is not a Baldwin. He's a Barney.
Oh, he's ugly.
Yeah, he's a lame guy.
Yeah.
Because it's taken from Barney Rubble. Because
Okay.
Betty is clearly much more attractive than Barney Rubble is.
God. I thought it was the purple dinosaur, also a nod to the 90s. But anyway.
All right. Julia, we have one more each.
Great.
Monet.
Oh, yeah, this was great. So a Monet she's describing that the one gal, her enemy, Ambular, she called her Ambular, right? Looks pretty from far away, but close up, she's a big old mess.
Oh, it's such a good line.
Such a great line.
God.
That was before the Butterface came out. That
Yep.
was
Yes,
the little bit
Butterface.
more cruel, I think probably 2000s.
I'm gonna start using Monet. Not that I ever used Butterface. I've used Butterface to my wife, but we're both being, superficial, but never like. I'm just gonna shut up now. What's my word? And use it in a sentence, please.
Toe up.
Dead?
Mm.
Okay, well that's why I needed it in a
Well,
sentence, sir.
you didn't give me a chance. You guessed before I was able
sorry.
to give it to you in a sentence.
Well, I retract my guess.
Well, no, it's already out there. It's recorded. I can't edit that out.
Okay. So says the editor.
So, Julia, any guesses on toe up?
Again, I needed it in a sentence.
You guys are terrible. I mean, granted, I have all the answers right in front of me on my screen, but I know all these because I'm looking at them. All right.
It's 9:30. It's already, right? So for me personally.
All right, let's see. When Cher and Dion first identified Ty as needing help, they identified her as toe up.
That she... Okay, I don't even know. I don't remember this one. So what, that she's worthy of a makeover and a nice person?
Yeah, it's been replaced by the term hot mess.
Okay.
I couldn't really use that because that's like the definition of it, but yeah. Yeah,
Right.
they thought, oh, she needs help. She needs a makeover.
She needs a toe
She
up.
needs a. Oh, she is toe up. That's why she needed
She's
a
toe up.
makeover and needed to watch Spuns of Steel and everything.
Mm-hmm. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
So a couple more of my favorites from here. And this one's so I'm Audi, not I'm Audi, OUTIE, but the car.
Yep, I'm Audi.
Yes, I'm Audi.
That's the actual term. Who knew? You have the Surf the Crimson Wave.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder why that hasn't caught on or continued. I don't know.
Why hasn't it caught on?
Kato is a very 90s, very specific term there. And then, you used it before. As if.
As if.
All right.
The other one that I like it goes by pretty quick, but I wrote down, and again, just complete different vernacular, and they used the word sporadically, but was when they were at the party and Christian asked Cher if she would pass me a fin. Money as a fin. Again, I'm like, that's why I watched it twice, because I was like, I want to write down some of these sentences because they were so good.
Here's a question. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. When she talked about it, she's like, I felt impotent and out of control. I mean, the words, and I don't know if it was a nod to Jane Austen, but like there was this whole other language that I think because this movie was framed as like a teenage love story, like, can we appreciate all of these amazing, this script must have been so cool. Totally buggin', right? I totally choked, way harsh. A Betty, like just some really great words. I just don't know that our youth is currently embracing, like the 2020s version of these words. So
how much?
Go ahead, Chad.
Do you think the vernacular was part of the decade, and or part of Southern California? Because I feel like some of them are very specific to the Pacific.
Right.
A lot of them are. I know that for researching this, I think Amy Heckerling and some of the cast, they spent time in Beverly Hills High School.
Okay.
Like they connected. They heard how they were talking and all that, and
because I feel like a lot of the things this movie sets up is what I heard, in middle school and high school, because this movie had come out. Like it wasn't a thing in Kenosha, Wisconsin in the early 90s to say a lot of this stuff, but it was such a classic and everybody had seen it that we started saying it, 4 or 5 years after the fact still.
You're bugging.
You're bugging. You're totally bugging.
Straight tripping, yo.
And it's like, it's one of those chicken or egg type of things too. It's like, we weren't talking that way. This movie comes out, suddenly we're talking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what that can do. So the movie was successful enough that a TV network said, we want that show. And so 62 episodes.
I can't believe they had that many
of this half-hour show came out.
Wow.
So Alicia Silverstone did not sign on to this because she was doing movies. So you had Rachel Blanchard taking over the Cher Horowitz role. But you had Stacey Dash, Donald Faison, Alyssa Donovan. So the I guess the redhead that was kind of frenemy,
Amber.
I guess. Yeah, Amber.
Yep.
So Ty wasn't in this either. But you also have Wallace Shawn signed on, the Twink Kaplan, Miss Geist, Julie Brown as the coach. So you had a large contingent of this cast go on to the
That's
TV
rare.
show. That is rare.
Wow.
That is very rare. But Stacey Dash was like 40 when the show did. It was 1996 to 1999 were the years for that show. So Amy Heckerling still gets a lot of credit for the show, and she directed like 4 episodes of it as well. So it's still really connected to it, but I'm guessing that, like most high school shows, like if it's not about the teachers, it can't last that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I always thought about that about Head of the Class. Remember that show from the 80s, early 90s? It's like these are supposed to be advanced students, like the super smart kids, and they've been in high school for 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, or you do the Bayside thing and you just go through
Right.
all the levels of their scholastic career
And now,
with or without Kelly Kapowski.
right.
Yeah. This going to that, talking about Did Kids Talk This Way, it reminds me, and I'll confess that I still will watch Beverly Hills 90210. So Beverly Hills 902, the 90210, the TV show, right? Those kids, which this goes to the aging thing. How old was Gabrielle Carteris when she was cast in 90210?
She was literally 40.
Old.
Like
And they really, it was so obvious she was not a high school student. Beverly Hills 90210 ran from 92 to, they also ran 10 seasons. But there wasn't any, those kids, and the way that show was written was they were little mini adults, right?
yeah.
So different. And they went to Beverly Hills High School, allegedly. So it was just interesting to think about that. There was definitely no bugging or jeeping behind my back coming from Brandon Walsh or Dylan McKay.
Talking about the parties in the valley that get busted by the cops.
That's right. Yeah.
I appreciated, it's not what I liked about this film is it's not, well, it has some there's the computer where she's picking out her outfit to say if it's a match or not, which is it still looks cool. I know it's a big old computer, but it's it's still fun. And they all have the cell phones, but the movie does well as far as holding, still being seemingly relevant and not really aging itself. I mean, yes, the dialogue and all that, but I feel because it pulled itself from a classic story that it helps it have legs.
Yes.
I know. What are your thoughts on this film, Chad?
It's great to see a film that still holds itself, 30, 25. How old are we? What year is it? COVID. 25 years at least. And it's, I don't know, because especially with the show, we've been watching a lot of stuff that wasn't even out when we were, or, came out years before we were alive. And that's great. I love the fact that old films can still hold, themselves over time. And it seems like this movie is going to have the same trajectory, whether some idiots watch this 80 years from now when we're long gone and still have, a reaction to it, even though they probably never experienced what the 90s were like. It still holds up pretty well for me. And again, I'm just impressed on how it's very rare to see that quick kind of dialogue around this time, especially with a female lead.
Yeah.
And it does have a lot of hints of feminism and Cher just wanting to be her own person. That's all she wants to be. And I totally respect that. So yeah, this movie's totally great.
Totally.
Totes. Sorry, that's too new. But see, look what came from totally. Now we're saying totes.
Yeah, we shorten it. We're more efficient now in our age.
Yes, it's the future.
Julia,
right.
I know that obviously you like this film, but why does this film still work for you?
So I think it works. One, it's a funny film. I mean, if this is about comedy, it's a very funny film. And I think the tone is right. I mean, Cher could really come off as this shallow, rich, spoiled brat. And yet it's there are these threads. She really cares for her dad. Essentially mom died at a young age, and even when she admits finally that she's clueless, like there's just such a good, like, I don't know if it's satire, right? But it's that, or like when the kids, they think they're so full of themselves. The scene where they get on the freeway and the old people flip them off. It's so
I forgot about
funny.
that scene.
Like in one moment they're like, we can do whatever we want, and we're, and the
get
next
down the
they think they're
highway?
gonna die. Yeah. No, what are you doing? Like they are clueless, and yet there's just these, like, even when she's giving her skis away, and he's like, what are you, Dad's like, what are you doing? She's like, they lost all their belongings. Don't you think that would include skis? Which brings the idea too that when people lose things, it's like, well, only the necessities. Well, why? Like, you're making a judgment. And instead, she's basically, like, out of the kindness of her own heart, saying, I don't need any of this stuff. And maybe people who've lost everything can actually take it, which is very cool, right? Like, why can't people who lose everything have red caviar?
Right. Right.
Like, why not? And so I loved that. I think one of my favorite scenes is still, I forgot about that freeway scene. That was so funny.
The opening debate where she's talking about the Haitians.
The Haitians.
Which was a real...
It was a real thing. She did not know how to say that. And the director didn't let anyone correct her because it was hilarious.
It's so good.
So funny. Hello. It was his 50th birthday party.
Yeah, it's, throughout this, and I think it was interesting you brought up the other movie that came out around this time with Reese Witherspoon. What's that called? With
Cruel Intentions?
No. Where she's blonde. Elle Woods.
Oh,
Yeah, Legally
Blonde.
Yeah.
Like both of these characters like are very similar in many ways. It's almost as if Cher went to college.
Yes.
Because she is a very good debater. She's a very good of bringing up her points and explaining her stance and where she is. And I think giving that, like, she has justification for her decisions. Whether they're strong justifications or weak justifications, she has reasons that she's doing things.
Right.
And I think for that, I think it's a good... it's, and it's a good story. Like, it really holds up. Because the Haitians still need help.
And they do. And Dan Hedaya, who plays her dad, and he's so scary. And like when he tells Ty, get out of my chair. But we're having a family dinner. No one's answering the phone. And then he answers his phone. And so then the girls answer just so good. But he was great. And she doesn't let him have the meat sandwich.
The first time I remember, again, it's been years since I've seen this film, but I remember I always thought the dad was kind of a jerk and not really a good dad. I'm watching it now, and now I have kids, and I don't know if that's a difference or not, but it's like, he's a really good dad.
I had a similar thought too. I'm like, I remember him being a lot colder, but he's hilarious.
He's hilarious, and he generally cares. I mean, he was married to Josh's mom for just a short time, but he still treats Josh like a son.
Yeah.
Like a son, yeah.
Like a son.
And that's, it's like, oh my God, she's a really good person. I didn't think he was from watching. So it's fun to watch and just see the differences now of like what I'm picking up and what I'm not picking up. All right. Yeah, so I think we all like this film.
As if.
I think we the one final note that I have on this, and it's a Paul Rudd related, because we really haven't talked a lot about Paul Rudd, but
he's everywhere. Everybody talks about Paul Rudd.
Everyone,
he had originally, like, his initial role that he tried out for were actually the high schoolers. So he auditioned for the roles of Christian, Elton, and Murray, Donald Faison's character. He thought that Murray was going to be a white teenager who thought he could rap. So that's a...
Yes.
And instead they cast him as Josh, the college stepbrother, and eventual love interest.
Love interest stepbrother.
Yes.
So,
I've
seeing what like seeing Paul Rudd in interviews and all that. I mean, obviously we don't know him at all, but it's just like it seems very in character for him to think, oh yeah, this guy is probably a white guy who thinks he's a rapper. I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm from
right.
Kansas. I can do that.
Went to Kansas University, God damn it.
Julia, you were going to say something?
Sure. So it was a Jeremy Sisto weekend. Just a comment about Elton, right? So I've been watching 6 Feet Under, which that's a whole nother. So that's an amazing TV show on HBO. Anyway, he plays somebody with bipolar disorder, and so it's the end of season 1, and so like Saturday morning I'm watching him going, oh my god, he's incredible. And Kurt just watched him in an episode of Law and Order where he's our age, much older, and then to turn on Clueless and then see him as like a clueless high schooler. I was like, oh, it's a Jeremy Sisto weekend, and you don't see him very often, and saw him in like 3 very different things. He's also, I think, another one underrated actor.
Yes.
That doesn't get enough attention, I think, as he should, because, seeing him in Clueless right after seeing him playing this like very, very, mentally ill character in 6 Feet Under and being very scary was very refreshing. Like, you're good too.
Yeah, this cast was very, very good. And again, like we said earlier, there were a lot of people in this that are bigger stars now. And it was surprising to see them in this because I didn't remember, but so many of them are just like, this is my first movie. I was in the background for Clueless. All right. Julia, any final thoughts?
I would watch it again. I'm going to recommend it to people. Really enjoyed it. To quote, what's his name? Breckenmeyer, too enthusiastic, thumbs up.
Chad, what about you? Any final thoughts about this film?
Just as a note, Amy Heckerling has done a lot of stuff before this of note and worth. And, I think one of the cool things about this show is like, oh, you like this that we watch, you should try this. So I think I'm going to dig into her library on my own.
Have you seen Fast Times before?
No, and I know like some of the pop culture around it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's like the 80s version of Clueless, basically. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's like she almost like redid it, like it's a same high school, like same area high school, LA high school, even though she's from the Bronx, she still writes about LA. Yeah.
You want to talk about actors, there's so many famous people in Fast Times, but that's how Sean Penn got his start.
Yeah, like I know Judge Reinhold's in it, and the whole topless scene, and
my God,
it's one of those. I have a lot of these types of movies where it's so ingrained in pop culture, I know it by association. Yeah, and so much time has gone by. I'm like, well, eventually I'll get to it. It's not like it's pressing now, but I'll definitely watch that first then.
Yeah, I mean she's
good. Eric Stoltz. Oh my God.
Oh, Forrest Whitaker's in it too?
Yep, Forrest Whitaker.
Yep. Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, so some other films that she's done that Johnny Dangerously is an underrated comedy. She did European Vacation as well.
Yes.
Oh, Johnny Dangerously. I'll have to watch that too.
And then she's done a lot of TV shows after that. To have the success that she had in the 80s and early 90s, but it's only like all those films were very good. Look Who's Talking 2, Clueless in 95.
The last movie she did was Loser. Oh, well, 2000. I Could Never Be Your Woman.
Yeah. But it's
with Paul Rudd.
It's like she could, I don't think she's gotten her due. I think she's been.
I agree, Kris.
I think she's been, and obviously Hollywood is a very male-centric entity. But how much?
How dare you?
But so how much is it that she had good stories and she would get it? I don't know. I would say most other directors that would have Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Johnny Dangerously, European Vacation, in 82, 84, 85, you'd think they would be given any movie that they want to do. But she went, 4 years until Look Who's Talking. So that's what I'll say. She should be doing more.
Yes.
Oh, she did Vamps. That was the last movie she did. 2012. So she's due for a movie. It's been 10 years.
I mean, there are some directors that do take their time. They direct one every 10 years or so. So maybe she's that type of director.
Lucia Silverstone was in it too. I'm gonna hop through her library. I'm interested. She does good work.
Well,
obvious by this movie.
Chad, make sure you also watch our next film.
Oh yeah, I already peeked at that. I already have 18 quotes in my head that won't leave my
another
head now.
film that has established many quotes that the first people that saw it and came back to high school or college and were quoting it, you're like, you are so funny now.
Yeah.
The 2004 Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. Back when he and Adam McKay and Will Ferrell got along.
The comedy world.
We're friends. I just started watching that on Thursday.
Well, maybe you might have to join us again then.
Oh my God.
Real quick.
Okay, Christina Applegate is so good in it.
So funny.
So funny.
And Paul
anyway,
Rudd is in it
go
as
ahead.
well.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Did they have a breakup? I thought just Adam McKay wanted to do serious stuff and Farrell whatever, but did they have like a breakup?
They had a breakup. Yeah. Adam McKay did the Lakers series on HBO, I think, and he did not give the part to Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell got mad.
Oh, he gave it to what's his name instead. Huh. I didn't realize
we'll
that.
have to look at that for our next podcast. We don't want to talk too much.
But I want to talk about it now.
I know you do. Yeah. I know you do. But Julia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julia.
I look forward to other recordings, including You Haven't Seen What?
Haven't seen what?
Well, we're going to get back into that and do another show. We'll figure out what we will do. And if you want to join us for Anchorman, you are more than welcome to join us.
That would be fun. That'd be so much fun.
All right, Chad, take us home.
Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whitey. See a doctor and get rid of it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again for listening to the Film Illogical Society. If you'd like to listen to similar podcasts, please check out 65 Media on Stitcher, iTunes, and Facebook. Or check out Redacted Media on Facebook or YouTube.